This podcast is under the comedy section on iTunes.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Should we go back to it now?
No, it's okay. It is a delight to be back here in Philadelphia, the city of brotherly love, and also, for anyone watching the stream, wherever you are, it's a delight to be in your living room, on your phone, whatever it is. How's it going, folks? You guys having a good Wednesday evening? Yeah? All right, sweet. Let's have a little bit more fun. We are here first off in this first act to cover a little bit of Percy Jackson and the Titan's Curse. And then in the second act, we're going to have this really great guy named Mike Schubert. He runs this podcast called Potterless. Love him. Met him backstage. Super chill dude. That'll be a very fun act too. But for act one, we have a lovely guest here to help me cover the Percy Jackson book. And that is my wife. And you might also know her as the creative head designer for Magic Shop patches. It's Kelly Beckman Schubert. Kelly, come out to the stage. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Now I can look all pretty and make sure like there's a lot of people streaming and in person. I gotta make sure it's high stakes. How are you?
I'm good.
Having a fun one here in Philly?
Having a great day.
Had a very fun time taking the 6 a.m. Amtrak train.
Oh yeah, that was a blast.
Oh
that was wonderful.
So we are here today to cover chapter 19 of Percy Jackson and the Titan's Curse, which is an intense chapter where lots of things happen, and I'm very excited to cover it. I don't believe you've been on the podcast since we've instituted the repeat guests talk about who they think is their godly parent rule.
Oh.
So, have you ever taken a sorting quiz?
Yes.
Okay.
And we have the same godly parent according to that quiz, which makes me feel like I need to take a better quiz than the one that I took. I did not know that was a new rule. My bad.
It's okay. That's fine. I think we do need to take a more robust quiz because I'm pretty sure the one we took, it's the official Rick Riordan one. And I think there's only like 5 options anyway. So there's already a 20% chance that we were going to get the same.
I took the quiz. I got the same answer as you. And I was like, I'm just going to put that out of my head now.
You know, that's kind of my general approach to all of the relationships and the Greek of it all with Percy Jackson. And we get in a little bit into that in this chapter when like Athena is talking to Percy about like Annabeth, and they're all like, oh, I don't know proof of this, you know, my uncle Poseidon and my dad Zeus, and I'm like, oh no, let's not think about this. So we don't have to worry about that, but we do have to worry about chapter 19, which is called The Gods Vote How to Kill Us. Now, as is set as precedent here on the Newest Olympian, I always try to guess what happens based on the chapter title. And just for this one with The Gods Vote How to Kill Us, I didn't have high hopes for it being a good one. I was thinking, though, that at first read, I was like, there's no way that they're going to get punished. Like, they didn't do anything wrong. So it's not like the gods are going to be like, oh, you've offended us, therefore we must smite you. I figured it would be more of the threat of it all, the prophecy of it all. But I was wondering if maybe it was a little play where instead of like, they vote how to kill us, it's like, oh, the fate either lies in like, the human mortals have to, you know, they'll be their own downfall and demise as opposed to we're going to let the Titans vanquish them. I don't really know that the chapter title is accurate, though, upon reflection of reading chapter 19.
Yeah.
They definitely vote, but I don't think they vote how to kill us. I would maybe retitle this one, The Gods Vote Whether or Not to Kill Us. That feels more accurate to me.
Not as punchy, though, with
the
one-liner.
True. And that's why Rick is the author and I'm the critic. Anyway. Where we last left our heroes at the end of chapter 18, we had a very intense situation post all of the fight with Mount Othris and all of that, and Zoe tragically died and turned into a constellation. It was very, very sad.
I was reading very quickly in the green room before this, and I shed a single tear and then moved on very fast.
We also have a question mark about Luke's status, but going into this, I was like, this guy's coming back. There's 2 more books. There's no way this guy's dead. So that's where we last left our heroes. Now, this chapter starts with a very powerful introduction. Quote, flying was bad enough for a son of Poseidon, because they're all all on the Pegasi back to New York. Flying was bad enough for a son of Poseidon, but flying straight up to Zeus's palace with thunder and lightning swirling around it was even worse.
Ominous.
Sets the scene. Yes, very
Very
ominous.
ominous.
Now, I was very excited because since they're going to Mount Olympus for the winter solstice council meeting, that means we're going to get to meet the rest of the gods. Because so far, we have not met Hephaestus, we have not met Demeter, and I don't think we've actually met Hera. I think they've just kind of talked about them. And then we maybe kind of met Athena in the Hoover Dam when she was an elevator attendant. But I was excited to see who the rest of the folks what they would be like.
I forgot that you haven't met most of the gods yet because I read very quickly through this series and then through the sequel series. And then I, before today, very quickly had to reread the first 3 books because my head is full of sequel series right now because that's what I just finished. So that's why I was frantically reading in the green room before this. And yeah, you haven't met any of these gods, and it's an exciting way to do it.
Yeah, I'm very excited, and I hope I get to meet them more than just this. The other thing, I am glad that you read the books because as I've been talking to you about things that I'm allowed to when I finish them, I've been very excited to say, oh, I just got to the chapter where this happens, or I just got to the chapter where this happens. And usually your response is, oh, that's book 3? So I'm glad that you have reread them so that you don't say like, oh, yeah, you know, when Grover's brutally murdered by Hephaestus. Yeah.
Yeah, earlier today when I was on chapter 2, and I was like, who's the monster that Artemis is chasing? And you go, moo. And I was like, what's that? What are we talking about? And you're like, you've read this book. I'm like, I know, but what are we talking about? So yeah, I really needed to reread them.
So it's early morning when they arrive to Olympus, and it is beautiful. The light of torches and the fires makes the palaces glow all different colors, from blood red to indigo, which is a color that escapes me because I'm blue-purple colorblind. Shout out to me making the Potterless logo indigo, though. Now, despite it being the morning, the streets are bustling, so I guess Olympus is also the city that never sleeps, just like New York. The gardens smell beautiful, there's gorgeous music playing. It's got everything. It's wonderful. They land in the outer courtyard of the main palace, and the gates to the throne room open. Blackjack wishes Percy good luck. Percy feels a sense of dread since so many gods want to kill him, so he doesn't like the thought of being in a room of all of them. And then Blackjack basically asks Percy if he doesn't make it out, can Blackjack use his cabin as a stable? And then Percy just shoots him a stern look of, are you kidding me? And Blackjack goes, just a thought, sorry. Which I absolutely love. Perfect. Narrator Percy then says, Blackjack and his friends flew off, leaving Thalia, Annabeth, and me alone. For a minute, we stood there regarding the palace, the way we'd stood together in front of Westover Hall, what seemed like a million years ago. And yet that does feel like a million years ago.
Or like this morning, if you're me.
Okay, well, that's a little different. For me, it feels like a million years ago because I've done many episodes of the show now.
Yeah.
But also, it's so funny with these books because Percy always says things like, oh, I'm not going to see my cabin for so long. And then it's like a week and a half. But still, it does feel like a really long time.
Yeah, I think it was like 10 days.
It's 10. Yeah. I mean, last book was 10 days. This one.
I love that. No downtime. It's
Yeah.
all go.
It's great. No, the stakes are always high. They get going. But it's still, it feels like very action-packed, full days. Now, they enter the throne room, which allows them to play any action card in their hand twice. And some people play Dominion in the crowd. Nice. And they see the 12 thrones in the shape of a U. Every seat is filled with a 15-foot tall god or goddess, and it makes the monsters that they've faced recently seem like pieces of cake walks in the park. Artemis welcomes them, and Bessie also welcomes them in with a moo, classic Bessie. Bessie is there with Grover, who is kneeling by Zeus, and it looks like Grover's kind of talking to Zeus, feels very like they're planning something, very logistical. And Bessie is actually suspended in a sphere of water in the center of the room, living his best life, having a great time, swimming around, poking parts of his head and his tail out. Honestly, sounds like a really fun experience.
I want one of these in our apartment. That sounds awesome.
A floating water sphere.
Floating
Hello,
pool.
welcome to our place. You can kick off your shoes, hang your jacket here. This is our floating water sphere. With all of the work that Barb and Joel, my parents who are in the crowd, I think over there, all the work that they have to do with the pool that they have in their place in Texas, what kind of work do you have to do? Like, do you have to do salt water? Do you have to chlorinate it? How do you clean? Do you need a filter in it? Feels like a logistical nightmare.
Feels like something only the gods could create then.
You know? True. So Bessie, having a great time. Grover excitedly screams, "You made it!" And then he wants to run up to see them, but then he realizes because he was with Zeus, this could be misinterpreted as turning his back on Zeus. So it kind of looks back to Zeus to make sure that's okay. And Zeus is like, "Yeah, you're good." So he runs up to the team and he gives a big old hug to Annabeth and then to Thalia. And then he grabs Percy by the arms and implores him to convince the gods not to do it. And Percy goes, "Do what?" And then Artemis calls out to the heroes. And it's pretty clear, at least for me reading, like, they want to kill Bessie. They don't want to let the Titans kill Bessie to absorb the power that can make them topple the gods. So they're like, oh, well, let's get to it first. And that did make me feel good. I like Bessie.
Yeah, big twist I wasn't expecting the first time around either.
The thing is, though, I get the strategy. Like, it does make sense, but it's brutal. It's one of those, like, you're not wrong, but also, come on.
No, it's a good strategy. But the point that they don't, we'll get to it. There's a reason I think that they shouldn't have killed. We'll get
to it, because I think Percy brings up the point you're about to bring up.
No.
Oh, another point. Okay, we'll get to it
point.
later then. So Artemis approaches them. She does shrink to a human size as she approaches them, which I think is very nice of her.
Nice.
And she says that Olympus knows of their deeds, and they know that Mount Othrys is rising in the west, and that the Olympians have voted to act. Zeus has commanded that Apollo and Artemis are going to hunt the most powerful monsters to see if they can strike them down before they join Kronos. Athena will check in on the other Titans to make sure that they don't escape, and Poseidon will launch his full fury against the princess Andromeda. And then Artemis lays out what's in store for the heroes. She turns to face the gods and says, "These half-bloods have done Olympus a great service. Would any here deny that?" And at this point, narrator Percy kind of gives us a description of everybody who's here in the U. So we've got Zeus in his pinstripe suit with his dark beard. We've got Hera with silver braided hair and a shimmering peacock dress. We've got Poseidon in his fisher garb. We have Hephaestus described for the first time as, quote, "a lump of a man with a leg in a steel brace, a misshapen head, and a wild brown beard, fire flickering through his whiskers. The Lord of the Forges, Hephaestus." So very interesting and unique. I want to meet him because he doesn't do a whole heck of a lot here, but it's a fun intro for sure.
Is it just in my head, or has he ever been described, Zeus, in his pinstripe suit as diamonds in the stripes of his pinstripe suits?
I don't know if they said diamonds. I know they said it was like very shiny at least.
In my head, his stripes of his pinstripes are made out of diamonds.
Sounds about his
Don't
vibe.
know why, but it sounds right.
I mean, yeah, that's definitely feels like something he would do. Now, after Hephaestus, we have Hermes, but he's in a business suit this time and he's on his phone because classic, why is this a meeting? Couldn't it have just been an email situation? Apollo's in a golden throne with sunglasses and iPod headphones, and he just gives Percy a thumbs up. Very 2007 of this book. Apollo was watching Snow by the Red Hot Chili Peppers on his iPod video. And then a bored-looking Dionysus twirling a grapevine between his fingers. We have Ares on a chrome and leather throne. Gross. Sharpening a knife and glowering at Percy, which is a word I had never read before, but it was one of those words where I was like, I bet this is like glaring and scowling. And then I Googled it, and Google's like, you nailed it, bud. And then for the goddesses side, which I don't like that they have it separated boys and girls. Feels unnecessary, but also whatever. But still, I was like, oh, I guess they did do that.
Yeah.
On that side, we have Demeter with dark hair and green robes in a throne made of apple tree branches, which is great. I really wanted to know, are there apples on the branches? So if she gets bored during the meeting, can she have a snack? Because that sounds like the best throne. I want that a lot, but I want like a peanut butter and jelly tree sandwich or something. Shout out to my mom, who was very surprised that I made a peanut butter and jelly at 10 o'clock at night last night as a snack. She's like, what are you doing? I was like, eating. Love PB&Js. They're great. She's got her fun setup. Then we have Athena with her gray eyes and an elegant white dress. And then Aphrodite, who smiles and makes Percy blush, and he feels embarrassed about it. So Apollo breaks the silence by saying that the team did all right, and he begins to launch into a congratulatory haiku, but Hermes interrupts to say, yep, we agree with you, Apollo, no need to continue. And then Hermes tries to get them to move on to a vote for all in favor of not disintegrating them, say aye, which is a very high stakes vote if you're on the receiving end. He asks who's in favor. Demeter and Aphrodite tentatively raise their hands before Ares protests that Percy and Thalia are risks, and they are dangerous, and they should be dealt with while they are here in the room.
Strategically, Makes sense.
Again, yeah, the big theme of this chapter is like, you're not wrong, but also, can we not just kill everybody?
Yeah.
So Poseidon butts in to say that they are worthy heroes, and he doesn't like the thought of blasting his son to bits. And then Zeus agrees, yes, I would also not enjoy blasting my daughter to bits. And then that causes Thalia to blush. Narrator Percy says, I know how she felt. I'd hardly ever talked to my father, much less gotten a compliment from him. But then Athena pipes up to say, I also wouldn't like to kill my daughter in this situation, but those other two, I don't know. Wouldn't mind roasting them. She says that they are a security risk. She's trying to be very logical about it, but basically she's saying like, my daughter, don't kill her. These other two hooligans, get them out of here. Now, thankfully, this upsets Annabeth. She basically tries to launch into this, Mom, how could you sort of speech? But Athena cuts her short and gives her this calm but firm look. And she says, it is unfortunate that my father Zeus and my uncle Poseidon chose to break their oath not to have more children. Only Hades kept his word. I don't think so. I'm really feeling like Bianca and Nico are kids of Hades, but it's not been confirmed yet. But that's just where my head's at. So I think Athena is wrong. Continuing, only Hades kept his word, a fact that I find ironic. As we know from the great prophecy, children of the three elder gods, such as Thalia and Percy, are dangerous. As thick-headed as he is, Ares has a point. And then Ares goes, right! Hey, wait a minute, who are you calling? And he starts to get up to try to approach her, but then Dionysus yanks him back with some vines that kind of seatbelt him back into his seat. And it made me think of when you're in a seatbelt and you accidentally set off the thing that makes it lock into place, and then you spend the next 15 minutes trying to slowly put yourself back into the chair to make it unset so you can go instead of for hours on end. Ares is surprised that Dionysus wants to protect the team, but Dionysus says that he has no love for them, which I also don't believe, because deep down, he totally loves these kids, and he just doesn't want to admit it. He totally loves them. Dionysus, after saying that he has no love for them, then asks Athena if she really thinks that destroying them is the best plan. And Athena says that she's not passing judgment, she's just stating the risks, and she thinks that the whole council must make this decision together. Which again, very logical, very wise of her, it makes sense. Artemis votes against punishment and says that she wants to reward them, which I think is very nice. She feels that destroying them makes them no better than the Titans, which I think is another valid claim to make. She says, quote, if this is Olympian justice, I will have none of it. Apollo tells her to calm down, calling her sis, and Artemis says, don't call me sis, and she insists that she will reward them. Zeus stops the arguments and says, okay, we don't have to talk about this right now, but can we all agree that we kill Bessie? And almost everybody nods their head. And it takes Percy a second because the way that Zeus phrased it was, can we all agree to kill the monster? And Percy's like, yeah, killing monsters, good. Wait a second, you're calling my friend a monster. Actually, objection, Your Honor. I would like to not kill the Ophiuchorus, please. Now, he asks in shock, are you really going to kill Bessie? And then Bessie moos in protest. I'm glad Bessie is standing up for himself. Poseidon frowns and asks, you have named the Ophiuchorus Bessie? Which is just the ultimate like, oh, son, not in front of my friends. Come on. Oh, jeez. Percy tries to appeal to him, calling him dad, which is a great move to try to make sure he appeals to the emotions of it all. He calls him dad and then says that Bessie is just a sea creature and a nice one at that, so you can't destroy this nice, innocent sea creature. Poseidon's a bit uncomfortable, but he tries to reason with Percy that the power of the monster is considerable, and it would be dangerous to allow the Titans the opportunity to steal it by offering up and sacrificing Bessie.
What's more dangerous, and my reason as for why they shouldn't kill the monster, this has happened before, right? They killed Bessie, almost burned the entrails. The entrails got stolen by Zeus sending an eagle or something like that. But the monster was killed and 3,000 years later has been regenerated and now is back, and the same problem is happening again. So if you kill the monster now, the monster will regenerate in an unknown place in the world, and you won't have control over, maybe the Titans will find it first that time. So keep the monster alive and keep it where you can protect it and have control over its location, because it will come back and you won't have control over where it is when it comes back. So that's my reasoning as to why you don't kill the monster. and nobody pointed it out, which made me very upset.
Well, you're just smarter than everyone else in the room. No, seriously, that is a very wise thing to say. I'm surprised they didn't come up with it. And yeah, this is basically the like turn off the alarm versus snooze the alarm approach.
Right, yeah.
They're just trying to make problems for
kick it down the
future
road.
them. Yeah, they're just like, I'll worry about that later.
We've done it once before. We'll do it again. It was really close last time, and it was kind of close this time. But let's see if a third time we can also make this okay.
Yeah, it feels like if they keep doing this, it's going to be like the time where you keep signing up for free trials of stuff. And then eventually, like, you're going to be like, oh, when do I have to cancel it by? Was it May? Oh, it was April? And then you have to pay $100 million for whatever. And then you have to send the email that's like, oh, it wouldn't let me cancel. I went on the website page. I've done that like 5 times. It works every single time.
Sure.
It works. It works. Just do it.
It's like that, but with like much higher
Yeah, slightly higher stakes. I don't know. I didn't want to pay like $100 for like a service that gave me, what was the one? It was like a cleaning product service one. I did it to get like a free mop and a bucket.
Oh,
and then they were like, wanted to be like, we'll charge you $50 a month for elegant home cleaning products. Be like, I'm all right. Me and Mrs. Meyers are tight. I don't need to get anything super fancy. Anyway, Percy Jackson. Now, Percy cuts off Poseidon to appeal to Zeus that they cannot sacrifice Bessie. Percy makes direct eye contact with Zeus, despite after the fact realizing this was way scarier and I probably shouldn't have done this, but that's okay. Makes direct eye contact with him and then makes a couple of really sound points. First, you can't control a prophecy. Anytime you try to do it, it doesn't work out. 2, the Ophiuchorus is innocent and killing something innocent is wrong. And 3, it's basically the same situation as when Kronos tried to kill his kids over something that they might do. So it's a little bit of history repeating itself. It's kind of like the point Athena made earlier where you're going to be just as bad as them. I think some really solid arguments, maybe not as sound as yours, but I think that he makes a good point or two here.
He's making the emotional argument. And I don't think that's how you win the gods. Obviously, that is how he won the gods. But I think the logical argument is the way that you would do it.
He did it right, but you think you would get a high score for your method.
Yeah.
You would
Everybody
get
would vote for
excellent.
me.
He would just get good.
Yeah.
Zeus appears to be considering it. He looks over at Thalia, and then he asks about the possibility that one of Thalia or Percy sacrificed the entrails of Bessie to obtain the power for themselves. He asks if they really think that the gods can just leave that door open, and he cites that Thalia turns 16 tomorrow. And Annabeth replies that Zeus has to trust them, to which Zeus scowls, trust a hero? And I mean, yes, it is a hero, but it's also your daughter. Come on, dude. If she makes poor decisions, that's on you, man. Like, that's your parenting fault. Like, she's 16. She was a tree for a couple years. Also your fault. Like, I don't know that this is really a reflection on her or heroes as a whole. I feel like this is maybe you're bad, my guy. Ugh. It's like when parents post things, like if their kid's crying or whatever, and they're like, oh my God, look how much of a diva my 6-year-old is. It's like, wonder where they got that from, person on TikTok. Wild. Absolutely wild. Artemis, sorry.
Zeus being like, why would I ever trust a hero when the last 3 books they've trusted the heroes to save them every single time? And it's like, maybe they're trustworthy at this point.
Yeah, you would think that they're proving themselves time and time again, but
perhaps
maybe they're not reading the books. Artemis agrees with Annabeth and declares what her reward is. And it's very interesting. She says she needs a new lieutenant, a new tenant, if you will. And my thoughts were, maybe Thalia, maybe Bianca, if Bianca does end up being safe, like I think she is. I don't think she's gone. I think she's going to make a comeback, but there was no sort of inkling of Bianca being back, so I didn't feel super confident. But then Artemis says that she must first speak to Zeus privately, and that smelled heavily of Thalia. Like Artemis was asking for Zeus's permission. And Percy gets very distraught at this because he thinks that she's about to ask Annabeth to be her new lieutenant. And Percy is scrambling because he's like, oh no, I haven't let Annabeth know how I feel yet. I gotta let her know so that she knows I got a big old crush on her because I'm Percy Jackson.
Has Percy let us know how he feels about her yet, though?
I mean, yeah, like not directly, but like he gets mad every time she talks about Luke.
I mean,
He says she looks good.
Yeah.
He was very excited by the kiss on the cheek after the chariot race in the previous book.
Yeah.
He's made it quite clear,
Yeah.
his he doesn't have out of a very good poker face about this. He tries to tell Annabeth what's up, and he stumbles in the most adorably 14-year-old way possible. Look, I need to tell you something. I couldn't stand it if I don't want you to. And Annabeth says, you look like you're about to be sick. And narrator Percy says, that is exactly how I felt. Artemis declares that she has a new lieutenant, and Percy murmurs, "No!" under her. But then Artemis says Thalia, and Thalia accepts, which I found very surprising, but then her reasoning is brilliant. Now, I was wondering, before she explains her reasoning, I was thinking, oh, did the interaction with seeing Luke really change her opinion on Luke and boys in general? But no, it's even more brilliant than that. What Thalia says is, quote, "I will not turn 16 tomorrow. I will never turn 16. I won't let this prophecy be mine. I stand with my sister Artemis. Cronus will never tempt me again." So she is going to join the immortal hunters so that she never turns 16, so that she never becomes the evil, or potentially becomes the evil weapon that destroys the gods. I didn't think of this loophole at all, and it is genius.
Yeah, I think she's seen that when she's presented with that amount of temptation, she's not as unwavering as she would like to be. And so she doesn't want to be presented that much power again, because she's kind of already seen the cracks in herself.
Yeah, that's true. Now she's seen the worst case scenario type of thing with Luke completely falling over. She saw when she was directly confronted with it, you're right, that she
couldn't turn it down, really. She kind of had to be torn away from that possibility. Right? She was like doused with water to get her out of that like trance of power that she was in. And so that's what I read into.
No, that's really smart. That's really smart. It's like when I turn off Wi-Fi when I need to do editing work so that I'm not tempted to check Twitter or Gmail or all the other things and tell myself it's for work, but it's really, waste of time. Now that she recognizes herself, she's removing the temptation from the equation. But I also appreciate that in part of this quote, she says, "I won't let this prophecy be mine," which does sound profound, but she's also saying, you got to deal with this, Percy. This is off of my plate onto yours. Yeah. Enjoy this. Thalia then begins to take the same oath that Bianca took. She walks over to Percy, smiles, and hugs him. Percy blushes. Lots of blushing for Percy in the past couple of chapters. Love it. And he's very surprised by this. But then he's also concerned, wait, aren't you not allowed to hug boys anymore? He's afraid that he got her in trouble. But Thalia explains that being on the hunt feels like home. She'll have a sense of belonging. And Percy is now the one to deal with the prophecy, but she trusts him to handle it. And that thought doesn't necessarily thrill Percy, but hey, bud, them's the breaks. She hugs Annabeth and then hugs Grover, and then she stands by Artemis's side. Artemis then moves on to the topic of Bessie. Dionysus interjects to say that Percy trying to kill it for power is still a risk because of the temptation, but Percy pleads for them to keep the Ophiutorus safe. He suggests that Poseidon could hide him under the sea somewhere, or the gods could put him in an aquarium here. At this point, I didn't know if there was an aquarium or if Percy just believed, I'm 14, every town has an aquarium, which I thought was very cute.
The one possibility that didn't come up that I thought about, and I was wondering if it would be a good solution, keep Percy there for 2 years. Just like keep Percy around until he is 16. Give him a nice house, but put him under house arrest, and then just like keep him comfortable in like a little Percy zoo. Right? We're putting Bessie in a cage. Just put Percy in a cage.
And this
cover all the bases.
This is why you are not the author of the series. Oh, the Battle of the Labyrinth. Percy's locked in his room. Percy's still locked in his room. Percy plays tic-tac-toe against himself. Percy reads a book about chess. Oh, wow. Exhilarating stuff. Hephaestus asks why they should trust him. And Percy says because he's only 14, which that's a horrible excuse. I would not trust any 14-year-old. At 14, I thought switching from short hair to bowl cut was a good idea. Can't trust it. Says he's only 14, so if the prophecy is about him, that's 2 more years and also 2 more books for him to, before it becomes important. But Athena notes on the flip side, that's also 2 more years for Kronos to tempt him, and a lot can change in 2 years. Annabeth is upset again at Athena's statement here, and Athena says it's just a bad strategy to keep either the animal or the boy alive. Poseidon says that he won't have the creature killed. He won't have any sea creature killed if he can help it, and he can help it, so he doesn't want to have Bessie die. Then Poseidon holds out his hand, and a 20-foot 3-pronged trident appears. I've just realized in my notes I didn't need to write 3-pronged and trident. He vouches for Percy and the safety of the Ophiutorus. Zeus refuses, however, saying that it would give Poseidon too big of a bargaining chip, and Poseidon basically goes, oh, Zeus, come on. I'm the ocean guy. It's an ocean thing. Just let me have this one. But Zeus then makes a lightning bolt appear in his hand, and the mood is very bad in the room. So Poseidon relents, saying, okay, let's build an aquarium here, which now implies there was no aquarium, so they have to build one. We'll build an aquarium here. Hephaestus can help me build it, and then all the other gods can enchant it with all their powers.
Where's Hades? Don't they let him come for the winter solstice? I thought that was the deal.
Was it the winter one or was it the summer one?
Was it the summer one?
I think it was the summer one.
Oh.
Maybe. I don't know. I'll find out in the future books.
Yeah.
But he's at least not at this one.
Yeah.
Or at least not yet. Maybe he comes up in chapter 20. I haven't read chapter 20 yet.
Me neither.
Maybe he busts in sorry, I'm late. Oh my God, the traffic. Now, they're going to make the aquarium tank situation, I hope it's nice and big and spacious, for Bessie, enchanted with all the power of the gods to protect him. Poseidon also says that he vouches on his honor that Percy won't betray them. I do appreciate that vouch, which I wouldn't say is necessarily a very profound word, is used multiple times by Poseidon as the official thing of I vouch for my son, which is very, it would be like saying my son is very chill. But he vouches for him, which is apparently a big Olympus deal. Zeus ponders, thinks about it for a second, but then feels like he can put it up to a vote, asks who all is in favor. Many hands raised, which is good. The only people who abstain are Dionysus, Ares, and Athena, but the rest vote aye. So Zeus claims that the motion passes with a majority, and since they aren't killing the heroes now, we ought to celebrate them, which is a wild 180. To walk into a room and be like, hello, you'll either die or have the coolest party of your life. 50-50 shot. Narrator Percy then says the following as we transition to the party. There are parties, and then there are huge major blowout parties, and then there are Olympian parties. If you ever get a choice, go for the Olympian. Very cool intro. The 9 muses crank up the tunes, and the song is whatever you want it to be, and it changes based on whatever you're feeling. I like that Uncle Rick accidentally invented the silent disco in this book.
I love it.
I would hope that at least all of the tempos match up to where it's not out of whack like they do for silent discos, I believe. They try to get BPMs to be similar so that it's not wildly different. But I want to know if silent discos existed before or if Uncle Rick is a genius and he should sue whatever tech bro came up with the silent discos. Dionysus grows refreshments out of the ground with Ariadne at his side, and he looks happy for the first time in any time ever, so that's very nice. Nectar and ambrosia flow from golden fountains, and I imagine that they were in the exact shape of the chocolate fountains that was at all of the bar mitzvahs that you've been to in your life. Just the 3-prong flume situation.
No, I was imagining real fountains, like the fountains you see in Central Park and Bryant Park, huge fountains.
I was too. I was just making a joke.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
This podcast is under the comedy section on iTunes. Really? Yeah.
Oh. Okay. Should we go back to it now?
No, it's okay.
Okay. All right.
Jokes are better when you explain them. Now, there are platters of mortal snack food, which I really want to know what mortal snack food made the cut. What kind of things did they have you heard of Nutter Butters? The cookies are peanut butter, but there's also peanut butter inside. I want to know what is so cool that the gods are yeah, dude, pull N Peel Twizzlers. What is so good that they needed to have it? There's also goblets filled with whatever drink you want. If you had a goblet filled with anything, what would it be?
Milkshakes.
Really? What flavor?
Vanilla.
Look, that's fine. That's fine. You're on the campaign of vanilla is a good flavor and it shouldn't be a synonym for boring, which I agree with. So that's very fun. It's a good choice. A little dense to be drinking a lot of those in an unlimited
I
cup.
can change after 2 sips, right? Kind of
Sure.
2 sips of milkshake and then have it turn into a root beer float and then have it turn into water.
And then turn into water with the Tums already dissolved in it. So with the Alka-Seltzer Plus in there.
I'm assuming that Olympian food does not give you a stomachache.
Ooh, that would be nice.
That's what I'm thinking.
That would be very nice, but then that would also be dangerous for me because then I would not spend any time partying. I would spend all my time eating. So goblets filled with whatever you want. Grover has a plate of enchiladas because he's always got to be on brand. And then he also has a goblet of double espresso latte that he is chanting pan, pan, pan in front of, which means someone should take away this goblet from Grover.
I love Coffee Grover so
It's
much.
very funny. And
Because I relate to him so much.
yeah, Kelly today grabbed some coffee when we had breakfast with Barb and Joel, and then we got to the hotel lobby at undisclosed location hotel. And then I was very tired because I had to get up very early, and I slept on an air mattress in our living room. So I took a nap in the lobby. Our room wasn't ready yet. And when I woke up from the nap, Kelly had an empty cup of coffee, and it was a very different Kelly from when I had gone to sleep, because it wasn't just one coffee Kelly, it was 2 coffee Kellys. And 2 coffee Kellys, for someone who's 5'1" on a good day, is a lot of coffees.
I had another one in the green room. I'm very tired right now.
Well, they can't tell. Yeah. So the gods come up to Percy to congratulate him. They do reduce themselves to human size again, which is very thoughtful of them. Hermes chats up Percy and leaves before Percy can tell him about Luke, which is good timing, I guess, to not completely ruin the vibes. Mm-hmm. Apollo offers Percy a ride in his chariot whenever he wants and archery lessons, but Percy is not very interested in general, but he's also not interested because he's looking for Annabeth, because he wants to tell her that he loves her. So then Percy hears from behind him a deep voice say, "You won't let me down, I hope." And it's Poseidon, his dad. Percy says hi. Poseidon says that he's done well, and that makes Percy feel uneasy because it just feels strange to get praise from his dad, who he barely even talks to. Percy promises to not let him down, and then Poseidon starts to say, "Your friend Luke," and Percy goes, "He's not my friend, Dad!" So he goes, "Your former friend Luke said the same sort of things, but look how he ended up. Just a warning, Percy, even the bravest can fall." Mm-hmm. Percy says, "Speaking of falls, Luke's dead." And Poseidon goes, "No, he's not." There's 2 more books in the series, Percy. He can't die. Poseidon clarifies, saying, "I believe Annabeth told you this. Luke still lives. I have seen it. His boat sails from San Francisco with the remains of Kronos even now. He will retreat and regroup before assaulting you again." Just not sugarcoating it at all. Like, he's going to attack you, bud. Get ready. Probably in the next book. "I will do my best to destroy his boat with storms." Also, laying it down real thick. Look, I'm going to try to wreck his ship, but no promises. "But he is making alliances with my enemies, the older spirits of the ocean. They will fight to protect him." Percy asks how Luke could have survived the fall, and Poseidon says, "This is a YA series. No one dies if they're important." What he really says is that he doesn't know, but that Luke is more dangerous than ever and that the coffin continues to grow in strength. Percy brings up the same question that I had earlier about Atlas. Can't Atlas just make someone else take on his burden? Couldn't Atlas be like, "Hey, bud, come over here. I got this cool new job for you. You can hold up the whole weight of the world"? But Poseidon clarifies that it can only be forced upon a Titan, but anyone else can take it if they choose of their own free will, which feels a little convenient in the whole situation of sliding Atlas into holding up the sky when Percy was holding it before in the previous chapters. But I wonder if that's how it actually works in the myth, so I can table my criticisms for when I talk to Dr. Moya.
Yep.
Now,
I have no idea.
That's why Dr. Moya has residency on the podcast. Poseidon says that no one in Kronos' army would dare take on the burden, and Percy says that Luke did, and that set everything into motion. And then Poseidon calls Luke an interesting case, which is a fun, polite way to say it. And it sounds like Poseidon is about to say more to explain what he means, but then Bessie lets out a big moo because the gods are tossing around the water sphere, and I wrote in my notes, like a beach ball in a crowd. And then Poseidon legitimately says, "We can't have the Ophiuchorus being tossed around like a beach ball." So we're on the same wavelength. Poseidon then tells...
Wave.
Nice. Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm so good at puns, it's subconscious. Poseidon tells Percy to be good, and the reason that he tells him to do so is because we might not speak for a long time, which is a very cool thing for your dad to tell you. Percy is now face to face with Athena, and thankfully I never have this problem with my parents because anytime I call one of them, they can tell when the other is talking to me, so I will always hear like a very faint, "Are you talking to Michael?" And then stomp, 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 stomp. Put it on speakerphone. "Hi, Michael Schubert, it's your mother." And it's always great. I call one of them, I get to talk to both. Win-win. Now, Percy is face to face with Athena, who asks that Percy not judge her because she's just speaking the truth. He is dangerous. And Percy asks her, well, you never take risks? And Athena goes, I concede the point. You may perhaps be useful, and yet your fatal flaw may destroy us as well yourself. Now, we get the fatal flaw thing, which I had forgotten about and Percy had forgotten about. And it kind of sits like a lump in his stomach because he's like, oh, yeah, we talked about Annabeth's before. She said hers was pride. I don't know what mine is. And I had guessed he cares too much about his friend's situation, could get him into trouble. It's basically what Athena calls him out for here. Athena says that Kronos knows his fatal flaw, even if Percy doesn't. He studies his enemies. And she points out that Kronos has now taken away his mother, his best friend, and his lover, or she just says, and my daughter Annabeth.
Yeah.
Which is like a weird thing to be like, your mom, your best friend, and this other girl in each of the 3 books. Now, this is what she says. In each case, your loved ones have been used to lure you into Kronos' traps. Your fatal flaw is personal loyalty, Percy, which is a great one of those, like, what's your biggest weakness? I care too much. I try too hard. One of those things. You do not know when it is time to cut your losses. To save a friend, you would sacrifice the world in a hero of the prophecy that is very, very dangerous. So, big Spider-Man, Peter Parker, Miles Morales energy here for Percy Jackson. And Percy gets angry because he thinks that wanting to help your friends isn't a flaw. Athena says something that I think is very wise. She says the most dangerous flaws are the ones that are good in moderation. I mean, that's very true. And Percy's next line as the narrator basically says the same thing. He says, I wanted to argue, but I found I couldn't. Athena was pretty darn smart. Which, yeah, it totally makes sense. Like, if it's something that's good, but if you can exploit it by bringing it to the next level, it's just like when the Green Goblin makes Spider-Man choose between the kids in the tram or Mary Jane. Thankfully, Spider-Man's able to save both. I'm believing that Percy believes that he has the same power as well, but that's the kind of stuff. When you can use someone's good against them, that's where you can really trick people up.
I agree. And now I'm thinking, if I take the quiz again, would Athena be my parent?
I mean, you're bringing all the wisdom this episode. You're outsmarting the gods and Rick Riordan, so...
I'm an architect. Apparently, that's what her kids are.
I mean, yeah.
So, yeah. I'm going to go take it backstage.
Okay, yeah. It would be funny if one's like, what's your job? Oh, architect. Big Athena points.
Sailor, big Poseidon points.
Now, Athena says that she hopes the council's choice pans out to be a good one, but she also says that she'll be watching over Percy because she doesn't approve of his friendship with Annabeth. And I thought, oh, just wait till they start dating, Athena. That's going to be real rough. I do like that she is being established as the in-law that doesn't like you like right away, right off the bat.
And I like how she's still calling it a friendship, too.
Yeah, she's in denial. And then she begins to say, and should you begin to waver in your loyalties, but the narrator Percy says, she fixed me with her cold gray stare, and I realized what a terrible enemy Athena would make, 10 times worse than Ares or Dionysus or maybe even my father. Athena would never give up. She would never do something rash or stupid just because she hated you, and if she made a plan to destroy you, it would not fail. Intense. Wouldn't want to have Athena as my enemy at all. It's like having Jigsaw from Saw as your enemy. Just like a perfectly planned, terrifying situation.
Never seen Saw.
I've only seen the first one.
Okay.
I don't like
We're not the authorities to talk about Saw then.
I've read the Wikipedia pages for all of them. I know what happens without having to subject myself to needless jump scares. Annabeth excitedly calls out Percy's name and runs up to him, but then abruptly changes her mood when she sees that he's talking to Athena by going, oh, Mom. And then Athena goes, I will leave you for now. Which surprisingly didn't have a ... after it.
I think you should do the unofficial audiobooks. I like your voices so much.
I think I could do it. I've also realized from trying to YouTube it in the past and stuff just to hear some of the voice work, there's people that just on YouTube just read the books. Like there's just video of people reading the books. And look, if you thought podcasting wasn't a job, if you think just reading a book on a Steadicam, that's nothing. Absolutely nothing. People who do audiobook narrations are professionals. I don't know how they hired this guy for the Percy Jackson books, but my friends that I know do them are professionals. But yeah, Disney Hyperion, hit me up. I got you. So she says she's going to leave for now. Annabeth asks if Athena was giving him a hard time. Percy says, no, it's ... fine. And the ellipsis and fine are doing a lot of work here because it's clearly not fine. And then Percy, as the narrator, points out that they have matching gray streaks in their hair from holding up the world. I don't know if it'll eventually go away or if they always have this little streak of gray, which is an interesting look for 14-year-olds. But regardless, I like that they have a cute little matching hairdo situation going on.
It's adorable.
It's very cute. Now, there's so much that Percy wants to say to Annabeth, but the line from Athena has kind of zapped all the confidence away from him. And then Annabeth, of course, asks, what did you want to tell me earlier, Percy? Which is just the worst possible timing for it.
Really taking the wind out of his sails there.
Nice. Very good. And I gotta say, Percy's save here is actually good. Percy, who is as smooth as chunky peanut butter normally when it comes to Annabeth, actually is a really solid response in a way where he can kind of get at the same thing without fully admitting it, because he feels like he's pulling a little Spider-Man superhero thing of, I can't tell you how I really feel, because then that'll put you in danger situation. So he saves it by saying, I was thinking we got interrupted at Westover Hall, and I think I owe you a dance. Pretty good, pretty suave. She smiles and says, all right, seaweed brain. Very, very cute. And the narrator, Percy, says, so I took her hand, and I don't know what everybody else heard, but to me, it sounded like a slow dance. A little sad, but maybe a little hopeful too. And because it's 2007, I was imagining Wake Me Up When September Ends. But I think this is incredible. I think it's very cute.
Adorable.
And any other thoughts before we wrap up here?
It'd be pretty funny if Annabeth is hearing like a disco song or something.
She's hearing
At
the
same
hustle.
time. She's like, why is he grabbing my waist? I don't understand.
Well, that is the end of this chapter, and that is the end of Act 1 here. Hello and welcome to the Titan's Purse. Just to make sure you understand what's going to happen for the rest of the episode, what happened at the live show was we went to an act of Potterless and then we went into Q&A, deleting the Potterless portion. That'll eventually get posted onto the Potterless feed. But after the break here, we will get into the Q&A from the live show, which had a lot of Percy Jackson related questions and a lot of really good ones. But we are here at the Titan's Purse Sydney edition. I'm here in Australia, currently in the Bondi Beach area, and soon I will be heading to the Paddington area to do the live show here in Sydney. It will be over by the time you're listening to this, but I'm sure it went really well. How could it not? It's going to be a great time. And you will hear the audio from it later on the podcast in a future episode. But let's get into some announcements, some of which are Australia related, but others are for everyone in the whole world. First off, if you're enjoying listening to this episode, but it's just not enough, you want to feel like you were truly there, well, I'm happy to report you can watch the video version of this if you go to our merch store. If you go to thenewestolympian.com/merch, you can get the video replay of this show. It was a double show of The Newest Olympian and Potterless in Philadelphia, and we had a multi-camera setup, which was really cool, high-quality stuff, and you can get that at the merch store. Speaking of the merch store, we have a whole bunch of new merch available at the merch store. We have physical merchandise, such as posters designed by Sarah Barra and signed by me. We have TNO gold enamel pins. We've got digital merchandise such as phone wallpapers and ringtones, where you can get the TNO theme song as a ringtone, and you can get other goofy bits from the podcast as text tones and alarm tones and stuff like that. All of that is live now at thenewestolympian.com/merch. Now, for the Australia folks I mentioned earlier, we do have that TNO show on November 24th in Melbourne. We also have a Potterless show on November 23rd in Melbourne. You can get tickets to those at thenewestolympian.com/live. And speaking of live shows in the Australia area nearby, I will be going to New Zealand in December. And as long as things work out in the visa and scheduling departments, I should be doing live shows in Auckland and in Christchurch. Those dates are not confirmed quite yet. I will post about those as soon as I can. So follow the Newest Olympian on Twitter or Instagram at Newest Olympian, and I will post as soon as I know. And this podcast wouldn't be this podcast without the incredible support by many of you lovely human beings on Patreon. If you go to thenewestolympian.com/Patreon, you can get access to a whole bunch of bonus content. You also get access to every Potterless post I ever posted for 5 full years. And I want to thank the newest members of our team over at thenewestolympian.com/Patreon. So shout out to our newest Ultra God tier patron, Ricky. Shout out to our newest God tier patrons, Haley, Finn, Brenna Trull, and Francesca. And shout out to our newest Demigod tier patrons, Lauren Hurd, Penelope, Caleb, aka Where's My Head, Kate M., Rachel Kinman, Jello, Zachary Stefaniuk, and Travis Garrett. Also, want to give a oops, I missed your name in the shuffle of Patreon announcement things shout out to Elizabeth Pode and Freya Odins. As always, if you've supported for more than 2 weeks and I haven't said your name, shoot me a message. And if I've ever mispronounced your name in the shout out, shoot me a message. I want to get your name correct.
But thank you all for your support. May Athena bless you where you think of good words to guess when you play Wordle. Just that you make wise guesses and you don't make mistakes like, oh no, I already guessed that letter before. Oops. Also, if you're all caught up on the newest Olympian and you are caught up on the Patreon content, but you want more podcasting type things in your life, maybe from me, well, I make a whole bunch of shows. One of the shows that I make is called Meddling Adults. It is a game show for charity where I host and I have two folks go head to head in a contest to solve children's mysteries from classics like Encyclopedia Brown or Scooby-Doo. And whoever gets more guesses correct of culprit, motive, etc., earns money for a charity of their choosing. We've done 3 full seasons so far. Season 4 is currently in the works, and I think it's a very good podcast. I'm very biased, but I think you might enjoy it. It's very silly, it's very nostalgic, it's very goofy, and it's for a good cause. If you go to meddlingadults.com or search for Meddling Adults in your podcast app, you'll find it, and you can listen to it. And before we wrap up here, you're going to hear words from a few sponsors who make it feasible for me to be a full-time podcaster. Some of these ads will be read by me, others of them won't. The ones that are not read by me are inserted locally, so if you live in Sydney, Australia, don't be surprised if you hear an ad for Vegemite, which I can confirm is very good. You just got to put butter on the toast first and then Vegemite. Quite tasty. I'm a big fan of the food down here. But once those ads are complete, we'll get back to this episode of The Newest Olympian.
Let's do 10 minutes of Q&A and
Wonderful.
then get on out of here. We've got a whole bunch of questions. I am just going to pick the first one at random. So this question comes from a listener of the show, Sherry Guo. Question, subject line says, from your editor. She asks, if Percy, Annabeth, Grover, and Thalia each had a Pokemon sidekick, which Pokemon would each person have and why? Percy's definitely going to pick a water-type Pokemon.
Oh, yeah.
But he's going to want to pick one that's cool. So I feel like he would lean towards like Gyarados because he'd be like, oh, it's cool. Vaporeon's too girly. I need the big dragon. Annabeth would want, what's the like owl one? There's like an owl, one of the newer ones. I've realized I've never played Plus 151. You could have said any combination of syllables and I would have said that one. But maybe isn't like, I don't think it's an owl, but like, isn't Ho-Oh like a cool, like legendary bird? I feel like she would have like a legendary bird of sorts, even if it's not an owl. Grover, is there a goat Pokemon?
That's what I was thinking.
I feel like because he would want like a very like nature-y type. So maybe he would be, I know like Leafeon exists, which is a terrible name for a Pokemon. Oh, maybe he would just have like a classic like Bulbasaur, Venusaur, Ivysaur. Like he would just have the solid plant bud. And then Thalia would have to pick like, I don't know, like Electabuzz or something. Yeah. Just like a big Zap. Or no, she would want a Zapdos because it's the big electric bird and it looks cool. That would be her thing.
But she doesn't like flying.
She doesn't like flying. So what's like a ground electric, not Pikachu, it's too easy. Jolteon, that would be a good one. That's a good call. And then
and it's spiky like her, doesn't it? Like spiky hair.
All right.
You know,
any other thoughts for these?
No.
You big Pokemon master,
I'm going to defer to you on those. I only know like the first generation.
Barely. I tried to get you to play it on the Game Boy Color for a little bit. And after like 30 minutes, you were like, I'm bored. Where do I walk? Why doesn't my grandpa know my name? Yeah. Or I guess whatever Professor Oak is. Okay, now let's see. This question is from Giselle Salvatore. Giselle says, hi, first, Kelly, you look stunning. Second, Mike, which Hades boss from Hades the video game do you think Percy would enjoy fighting the most? I think he would enjoy fighting Theseus because Theseus talks a lot of trash, and I think Percy would have a very fun time talking trash back. That would be my vote. Third, Kelly, if you could design something on Mount Olympus, what would it be?
Oh. I feel like as an architect, you usually design things that you can't go to, you can't enjoy. And I've been lucky enough that one of the things I designed was like a coffee shop very close to where we live. And so I go there all the time. But I've also designed like lots of like high-end residential apartment buildings that I'll never see the inside of, or like embassies that I'll never see the inside of and stuff like that. So I would design my own apartment on Olympus and then live there.
What would be some of the features in your own apartment on Olympus?
A huge fountain in the middle of like an interior
like a chocolate fountain?
It can be filled with whatever you want at any time.
All right. Now, this question comes from Kate and Hamilton. They ask, what are your top yes Percy moments, such as when you get excited about his emotional intelligence? So at any point in the book where you just scream like, yes, Percy. I think my two very different, because this is what are your top two. I would just say the two type are, I like when one, he thinks something like, oh, I wanted to ask them this, but they looked uncomfortable, so I didn't press them on it. I'll ask them later. I love that. I also love how quickly he turned on Luke and is just immediately like, Luke is bad. I hate this guy. He's the worst. And just because I feel a lot of kinship of that. It's like, oh, I like this person. And someone's like, this person was rude to me. I'd be like, just kidding. They're the worst person I've ever met in my life. Like if someone wrongs my friends, I'm like, oh, this person I used to like? Nope. The worst. So I like that he did that. Do you have any sort of big yes, Percy moments?
I always think of those more as like Rick giving us insight into what the other character is thinking. I don't think of it as Percy being insightful, but Rick being like, let me give you a little something since this is first person. Let me tell you something else.
I think it does two things. I think it does that, but then it also like teaches kids like sometimes you can think things and not comment them, which is also a thing that podcast listeners can do. Because I get some very interesting comments in emails where it's like, you could have just not typed this and hit enter.
I did like how between the second and the third book, he and Thalia just like became like fast, unspoken friends.
It was cool.
And then like slight enemies again, and then like fast friends again.
Yeah, I think that was very nice. Kate and Hamilton also say, on a different note, if you received a wedding invitation from a longtime show fan whose relationship was brought together because of your show, would you attend? I've been fortunate enough to be invited to some weddings from Potterless-based folks. I will always gladly welcome in the invitations. And if the schedule aligns where it's like, oh, I'm in Philadelphia and there's a wedding like either, the same day or whatever, I would gladly like swing by, say hi, and then leave because it's your special day and I don't want to make this about me. But most of the weddings I've been invited to are in very remote locations. Where it's like, oh, we're in like upstate North Dakota. It's like, enjoy your wedding. If it's convenient for me, I'm going to swing by. But like, I can't go out of my way to just... I'm a very busy boy. Okay, this is a fun one. Sarah says, since you have to start and stop sentences sometimes to get clean podcast audio, do you find yourself doing that in real life? Yes, all the time. Do you notice me doing this? Because it's something I've intentionally done, and I especially do with the live shows because we're recording these, especially for the book, like ones for TNO. Like, that's going to become a legit episode. Do you notice that I do this in real life? Because I notice I do it sometimes, and it's funny to me.
You don't do it when it's just you and I. You'll do it sometimes when you're in conversation with other people. But not when it's you and I. When it's you and I, you just like stumble through your words. You're just like, yeah, that's a
It's
sentence.
one of those things that's like, it's become a habit that I would rather have that habit than not have it because it makes my work life easier, and that is fine. So here's one more for you, Kelly. This one is from Mandy. And today is Jungkook's birthday, everybody, from BTS. So very, very important day. Surprised you all came to the show instead of celebrating. That makes me feel very, very, very proud. So in honor of Jungkook Day, Kelly, could you put the BTS members into either Hogwarts houses or decide their godly parents? We've done Hogwarts houses before, so for the different BTS members, and I'm happy to help out.
Yeah, help me with the like godly
Right.
part.
The other thing Mandy says is if Kelly brought any of her BTS merch, then they would be interested in buying.
Oh, no.
You'll have to do that for future shows that you're
Yeah,
on. We
didn't
can
bring
set it up.
anything.
Now, godly parents. So let's go RM. Leader of the group, logical.
Wise guy.
Athena?
Athena.
Cool. Let's go Jungkook. It's his birthday. He's good
Whoa.
at everything.
Just
Oh,
not
sorry.
going in
Oh, we
order
have to go
here.
in chant order? Sorry. Chant order after RM.
Jen.
Silly, goofy boy. Hermes?
Yeah.
Okay.
He also likes to cook and stuff. So I was wondering if like Demeter like harvests
Yeah. Okay.
goddess maybe.
Okay.
Okay. Maybe Hermes. I like the jokester
Okay.
Hermes bit.
Next after Jin.
Sugar.
I'm not asking. I'm just.
Oh, I thought you were.
No.
Okay.
No, I just.
was already thinking about what sugar was.
Sugar, rapper, very intricate lyrics, brings the intense energy.
Oh, is Apollo out?
No, you can do Apollo.
Well, then aren't they all just Apollo?
I mean, we don't have to do it for all of them. We could do it for some. You don't have to all do it. Maybe we save Apollo for a singer.
For Jungkook.
Sure.
Yeah.
That would make more sense.
Yep. Okay. I don't know. Zeus.
Zeus, I was going to say, like, lightning bolts, his raps are like electric. So
Right.
that could
Yeah. Sure.
be very good.
I was thinking he's very He's got like a powerful presence, and
Yeah.
that's what I was thinking.
Good stage presence,
Yeah.
commanding. Okay. After
J-Hope.
J-Hope. Okay. High energy, lovable. Poseidon, maybe?
That's what I was thinking.
Okay.
Actually, he's got like a Percy-esque energy to him.
All right. Next.
Jimin.
Jimin, very good dancer. Maybe like Aphrodite or Artemis. Like,
Ooh, Aphrodite. He's got
Yeah.
like a very like.
he's very pretty.
He's got a nature that like pulls you in. He's got a
Yeah.
very magnetic nature.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what I think.
Next.
V.
V. Oh, very suave. That feels Artemis
does-
to me.
Oh.
I just imagine her very like regal and like
Oh, okay.
well put together. And
Then
V
yeah,
feels like that
yeah,
too. He's
okay.
got like an old soul.
Sure.
And she's a million infinite years old, even though she's 12.
Yeah.
And then after V,
Jungkook.
which we said Apollo,
Apollo.
really talented singer.
Yes.
And we've done it. Oh, this is fun. Okay. This is from Sarah. If your in-laws were gods/goddesses, who would they be, and would they approve of your relationship with their daughter?
If
your parents were gods and goddesses, who would they be, and would they approve? From my experience, they do approve.
Yes. No, they approve.
Gods and goddesses for your parents. Your dad loves rocks. He's into geology.
Does that make him Hephaestus?
Nah, that feels more metalworky.
That does, yeah.
He needs more nature, which could be Artemis or Demeter, even though...
My dad's not Artemis.
I know he's not, but I'm trying to think. I mean, he's...
Maybe Demeter, because he's very, like, soft-spoken. He's not, like, the loudest one in the room.
Right,
But you get the idea that he's being very thoughtful.
Uh-huh. So maybe Demeter, but flipped. It's okay. Doesn't matter. Your mom, though?
Who is my mom? Artemis?
You know who your mom could be? Dionysus. She loves a party. She loves a party. She's very good at hosting parties. She likes to make sure everybody's having a good time.
Yeah, maybe not like the grumpy Dionysus.
No,
but
I
like,
think not Mr. D. I'm thinking pure like Dionysus.
Yeah, no,
Dionysus thoughts when it's like happy.
It's okay, my mom's not watching. She can't figure out how to work a live stream.
Look, we're saying nice things about it.
I told her that we were doing a live stream tonight. She's like, those words don't make sense to me. And I was like, I'm going on right now. I can't help you with it.
Okay, final question here from Rachel. This is a good thing for crossover since it's Percy Jackson and Harry Potter. I think it's a good note to end on. Just sorting some different characters from Harry Potter into cabins of different godly parents. So along the same lines. So some other Harry Potter characters that we think would be in different godly parent cabins. Obviously, Fred and George are going to be Hermes because they're all prankster goofballs. Easy.
Harry would be Zeus because he's main character.
Yeah, right. And he's arrogant for sure.
Hermione would be
Hermione
Athena.
feels Athena. Yeah. Very wise, very wise.
Voldemort.
I mean, Hades, I guess, but I don't know.
I was thinking like Ares, like he's got like a war aspect to him, like an evil, like I just want killing for killing's sake aspect to him.
Yeah, I like that. I also like that better because Ares is so far my least favorite of the gods, just from like a grumble perspective.
Yeah. Arthur.
He feels like Hephaestus. I would say a winner. I would say Hephaestus because he likes all the tinkering and all of that.
Okay. Yeah.
I think that's very fun, like all the working and all that kind of stuff like that.
Yeah.
Molly feels very Demeter because providing and cooking and family and all of that.
Are we trying to find one for each cabin or
Nah,
something?
we're just kind of spitballing until Joel comes on stage with the... Oh, Joel, come on! Yay! My dad, everybody! Hey! Is that okay? Awesome, great. All right, cool beans. Well, thank you so much, Joel. Alrighty, well, thank you all so much for coming to the show. Give yourselves a round of applause for making it out. For all you watching the stream, round of applause again for you, whether you stayed up late or you watched the replay or whatever it is. Thank you so much. Give it up for Kelly for being an incredible guest. Incredible. Give it up for Joel for helping out, and my mom, Barb, for being in the back and helping out pre-show and everything. And also shout out to all the folks here at City Winery for making everything happen, from sound to hospitality. Everything's been great. Shout out to the folks at Mandolin who made all of the streaming happen. So that's all been very fun. So yeah, and thank you all just so much for coming out and for listening to the show. None of this would be possible without you. So thank you so much. Because of COVID purposes and stuff, I'm just gonna clean up the mess we made on the stage and then skedoodle backstage. But I appreciate you all coming out very much. And I realized I didn't do a Priscilla later at the end of Act 1. So we're going to do the rare combo thing where we will close out the show by saying both. So we'll say Wizard on, I'll Percy you later feels like the normal ending of the two. Yeah,
sure, that's so normal.
Until I come back to Philly, because I was here about a year ago, so let's just make this an annual adventure where I come here for all of you lovely folks and eat cheesesteak and then perform on stage. A great use of a weeknight evening. Until then, Wizard on, I'll Percy you later. Thanks so much for coming out, everybody.
Hey, thank you so much for listening to this episode of The Newest Olympian. This podcast is created, hosted, and produced by me, Mike Schubert. I also run the social media and the website. Our editor and TikTok account runner is Sherry Guo. The music is by Bettina Campamanes and Brandon Grugel, and the art is by Jessica E. Boyd. If you want to get involved in the community around the show, you can do so on social media. We are at Newest Olympian on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. Facebook also has the spoiler group and the spoiler-free group. We also are at reddit.com/r/The Newest Olympian. If you want to take it to the next level, you can get in on the TNO Discord by joining our Patreon by going to thenewestolympian.com percygjackson.com/Patreon. Speaking of that Patreon, that's where bonus content lives. If you're looking for more TNO content, bonus episodes, director's commentary, monthly live streams, those all live there. And speaking of that Patreon, I want to give a huge shout out to our producer level patrons, Lotta Bartova, Kelsey Gillespie, The Damn Steam Nuggets, Emma Cooey, Vicky Garcia, Ellie Hoskovchova, Veronica Bartova, Haley Hastings, Robin Garcia, Frida Vikstrom, Megan Moon, Tuff Bayfong, Olivia Y, Craig McRoberts, Taylor Payne, Giselle Salvador, Peter Johnson the Twin, Sabrina Balsiger, Boney Pony, Heather McMillan, Casey Williams, Polly Burge, Nikki Harris, Tatiana Schmidt, Sandra Rose, Bridget Lowry, Josh Sayre, Josh Wilkie, Abby Ryan, Wise Girl, Ashton Gabrielson, Marco Redhouse, Falcon Joey James, Christopher William Boucher, Lux, Caden Mack, Sam Reeby, Carly Allen, Riley Kiedis, Mary Kelly, Audra, Mackenzie, Mrs. O'Leary, Aaron Wood, Rodith Kalna, Milo Kim, Fred Cabras, Harlan Christ, CC Reeds 23, Sandkopf, Julia Kendall, Emil Oskar Thomason, Noah Bungard, Liz Cardigan, Shatsabobs, Michelle Spurgeon, Zachary Hamilton, Ginger Spursboy, Rachel Bernatowicz, Sarah Neal, and Ricky. If you want to help out the show in a non-monetary way, spreading it via word of mouth is essential to the podcast's growth. If you think of someone that would like the show, you could reach out to them directly, say, hey, there's this podcast. You love Percy Jackson, listen to it. Or you've been looking for an excuse to read the Percy Jackson books, here's a digital book club. Or you could post about the show on social media, or leave it a rating and review on whatever podcasting app you're using. All of these things really do help, and I appreciate all of you who have done it in the past or will do it in the future. But I'm just so thankful that you tuned into this episode, and I hope you tune into our next episode, another fun live show episode with Kelly Beckman Schubert, as we do the final chapter, chapter 20 of Percy Jackson and the Titan's Curse. But until then, I'll Percy you later. Hey everyone, how's it going? It's me, ASMR Mike. So for this ASMR, I'm just going to take my phone, put it on voice memo mode, and stick it out the window because we have a very nice place here in the Bondi Beach area where we are very close to the water, so you can hear the soothing sounds of waves crashing, and hopefully it's not too windy where the wind overpowers those sounds. Thank you for listening.